Hi Year 6, welcome back. It's Miss Fry again, and this is our 5th English lesson. Now, last lesson, or yesterday, whenever you did that lesson, we were looking at insects, and you all designed your own insect that you could have possibly found or could have possibly been discovered in the Amazon rainforest. And you labelled it with some technical vocabulary that we discussed together and that you learnt yesterday. What I want to start with today is a video clip of the assassin beetle, one of the creatures that I shared some information with you about yesterday. Listen out for some technical vocabulary and the way that it's described. This video is in much more of an informal tone, whereas we're looking more to be formal in our writing for our non-chronological reports. But nevertheless, it's interesting for you to watch, and there's some useful phrases in there that you might wish to magnify. So I'll make a start with that straight away.
If you were to call this assassin bug bloodthirsty, the bug would most likely say, and your point is? Practically from the moment of birth, in a cave in southern Belize, the assassin bug has one mission: to suck another creature's blood. Take this newly hatched assassin bug baby called a nymph. To grow, the nymph must have the blood of a vertebrate. And so the nymph's first act after finding its legs is to go vertebrate hunting. A fish or reptile will do, but the nymph was born near a cave that is home for both fruit bats and vampire bats. This sleeping fruit bat will do nicely. The nymph can sense its victim's body heat. It punctures the bat's wingtip with its needle-like nose and then fill her up. Like a gasoline tanker truck filling with fuel, the nymph gorges itself. Its saliva acts as an anesthetic. The bat feels no pain. In another part of the cave, a vampire bat pup is in trouble. She slid down a cave wall, attracting some adult assassin bugs. The bugs have cornered the pup on a ledge and aim the blood-sucking siphons right at her. The pup can't fly yet, but she can use her forearms and legs to escape. The assassin bugs don't give up. They go after the pup. Maybe they should learn from their own nymphs. Getting a meal is so much easier when your prey is asleep. If you were to call this assassin bug bloodthirsty...
Oh, they look pretty scary to me. Hopefully you enjoyed watching that, and I'm glad the bats were okay in the end. I think the nymph was much more considerate, wasn't it? Using its anaesthetic to numb the pain and making sure the bat was asleep so it was painless. So, on with our lesson for today. Let's look back at our learning journey to see where we've come from and where we're going next. So we already know we've done the school trip, the virtual school trip, and collected our facts. You've practiced your relative clauses, fronted adverbials, and fronted subordinate clauses. You've written introductions to your report, and you've designed your own insect from the Amazon rainforest. So what we're going to practice today is using some prepositional phrases and expanded noun phrases just here. And we're actually just going to skip out this one because we'll come back to that next session. And we're going to use that to write our paragraph about our insect today. So today, please, you will need a pencil or a pen, some paper to write on and lined if you've got it, that would be great. And your work from lessons 1, 2, 3 and 4. The most important work that you'll need for this lesson is lesson 4's work, because that's your diagram of your Amazonian insect, labelled with technical vocabulary that you'll need to use today for your writing. So here's my insect from last session. As you can see, I've labelled the antennae, the compound eyes, wings, legs, abdomen, thorax and head. And these are the anatomy, the parts of the insect's body that I'm going to be describing when I'm writing my paragraph about the emerald skater fly. please make sure that on your diagrams you've got at least 6 things labelled so you've got enough to write about in your paragraphs. First of all, we're just going to have a little bit of revision about prepositions. Now, as you know, prepositions can be used to describe where something is in relation to something else, the direction that something is going in relation to something else, or when something's happening in relation to something else. Now, I know that you will have done that perhaps in year 5 before I'm starting to do that in year 4 as well, but it's something we need to put into practice in our writing today. The reason why prepositions and prepositional phrases are really, really useful for non-chronological reports, particularly when describing an animal or some sort of species, is because you are giving factual information about that insect or about that animal. So but being able to say where something is, the direction of something, or when something happens, perhaps in a life cycle or in the capturing of prey process, these prepositions and prepositional phrases will enable you to give that information in a clear and concise way in your writing. So let's have a look at some examples of prepositional phrases. So firstly, let's look at some for where. So where something's happening in relation to something else. Here's my example sentence. The creature has a large round abdomen underneath its narrow thorax. Which word is the preposition here? That's right, it's underneath, because the rounded abdomen is underneath its narrow thorax. So it's telling us where the abdomen is in relation to the thorax. Okay, can you spot the preposition in this sentence? Between its piercing proboscis and compound eyes, the beetle has a cluster of venomous glands. Where is the preposition? Absolutely, it's between. Between its piercing proboscis and compound eyes, the beetle has a cluster of venomous glands. So it's telling us where those venomous glands are in relation to the proboscis and the venomous eyes. And we know that using the preposition between, or between those key parts of the body, we know where they are now. As a reader, that's really clear to us. You can see from these 2 examples that your preposition can be used in the middle of a sentence, and again, it can be used at the front of the sentence as well. Okay, let's have a look at some examples for the direction that something's going in relation to something else. Quickly, the blood travels through the proboscis into the abdomen, ready to digest. Where's the preposition? That's right, it's through. It's telling us that the blood travels through the proboscis. So the direction is going in relation to something else. So the proboscis is here and it's going through. Okay, can you see the preposition in this sentence? Along the edge of each leg, fine adhesive hairs brush against the flower to collect pollen. Yes, that's right. It's along, or actually the prepositional phrase is along the edge. It's along the edge of each leg. Fine adhesive hairs brush against the flower to collect pollen. Well done. Okay, let's have a look at for when now, when something happens in relation to something else. So the assassin beetle nymph will continue to draw blood until its abdomen is full. Which word, which preposition here tells us when something is happening in relation to something else? It's until. The nymph will continue to draw the blood until the abdomen is full. When it's not full, it will carry on doing it. When it is full, it will stop. That's what that shows us in a clear and concise way. Can you spot the preposition in this sentence? The emerald skater fly will use its antennae to sense any predators in the immediate area before opening its eyes. That's right, well done. It's before. So it's telling us that before opening its eyes, and actually we could put that in as a front, at the front of the sentence, couldn't we? We could use it as a fronted subordinate clause there, but it works equally well at the end of the sentence too, to tell us that before opening its eyes, the emerald skaterfly will use its antennae to sense any of its predators. Okay, we're going to move on swiftly to expanded noun phrases. And we're just going to touch on this really, really briefly because it's something that you will all do naturally in your writing, but we need to make sure we know the technical vocabulary for it and be really clear about why we need to use them in our non-chronological reports. Now, an expanded noun phrase is a phrase made up of a noun, so a thing, person, place, object, and at least one adjective. If you list more than one adjective to describe the noun, you should use a comma to separate them. And you know about commas in a list, you've been using them all throughout Key Stage 2. Now, the examples I've given you are examples that could be used in your non-chronological report. And these aren't huge, elaborate words or metaphors, similes, or anything like that. They're actually very factual adjectives because we're writing an informative piece. Our purpose is to inform through our non-chronological report. These are quite factual adjectives. So the first example, you can see the noun is stinger, that's in blue, and my two adjectives which describe that noun are short, barbed, stinger. I've used two adjectives, so I've got my comma in a list, and that noun has been expanded with those two adjectives. My second one is a long proboscis. So we've got proboscis is the noun with the long describing it. Now, even though this has only got one adjective here of long, and this has got two adjectives, they're both still expanded noun phrases because there's at least one adjective expanding the noun. And lastly, I've got jaws as my noun. And to describe the jaws, we've got sharp, venomous jaws. So the reader knows instantly they're pretty deadly, they're sharp and they're poisonous. Now, the reason I wanted to show you both prepositional phrases and expanded noun phrases together is because I'd like you to practice putting them into a sentence. Now, to be honest, it's pretty impossible to write a paragraph describing the anatomy of your insect and informing your reader about your insect without using those expanded noun phrases, because that's just going to describe what you can see on that creature. So I think you'll use them pretty naturally anyway. We just want to make sure that we're using our prepositional language to make it really clear to the reader which part of the anatomy we're talking about. So let's have a look at some examples together to start with. The emerald skaterfly has a distinctive protuberant green thorax in between its luminescent teal head and abdomen. Now, I've used some technical vocabulary there and some quite ambitious vocabulary which I can explain to you. So distinctive means it's really noticeable, and protuberant means sort of sticking out, bulging. So it's got a distinctive protuberant green thorax. Now we know that the thorax is the middle part of the body here that's labelled. So the emerald skaterfly has a distinctive protuberant green thorax in between its luminescent, it's very bright, teal head and abdomen. So that describes here the thorax. It's in between. So already I've got in between is my prepositional phrase. I've got in between, and then I've got some expanded noun phrases in here as well, because firstly, when describing the thorax, I've used protuberant green thorax, and then when describing the abdomen, I've used luminescent teal head and abdomen, so it's describing the head and the abdomen there. Okay, so I've managed to use prepositional phrase to describe where something is in relation to another, and some expanded noun phrases in there. Okay, let's have a look at another example. So, either side of its 2.5-inch body, the creature has fore and hind wings which span more than 5 times its length, approximately 14 inches wide. Okay. I decided to put those brackets in at the end because I felt that that was an important addition of information. So I've used then my brackets for parenthesis to add in that extra information. Sorry, my screen froze just for a moment there. We'll try again. So either side of its 2.5-inch body, the creature has fore and hind wings which span more than 5 times its length, approximately 14 inches wide. So I describe where in relation to something else. So I've used a prepositional phrase at the beginning by telling my reader it's either side. Okay, so I've got either side of its 2.5-inch body. The creature has fore and hind wings. So I've used fore and hind. These are adjectives, but they're factual adjectives because they describe the front wings and the back wings, which span more than 5 times its length. So I'm saying that the wings are 5 times the length. So it was important to give the 2.5-inch, and then I felt like by using the brackets at the end to add in the additional information, you could say how the approximate size of that, because it then links back to the rest of the sentence. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is pause the video, and I'd like you to have a practice of writing some sentences to describe the anatomy of your insect. Okay, you don't have to practice all of them at the moment. Maybe choose 3 or 4 different parts of your insect that you're going to describe to practice your sentences. And I want you to make sure that you're successful in practicing these skills by using the technical language from our glossary yesterday and that you've already labelled your insect with. By using your expanded noun phrases, so you've got adjectives to describe the nouns, to describe the things, and you've got your prepositional phrases to describe where, the direction, or when something is in relation to something else. So pause the video now, use your diagram alongside you, and write some sentences, please, using some of those key skills that we've just practiced. Then we're going to come back together in a little while, once you've had a go at that, to think about how we can use that together to write our next paragraph of our non-chronological report. Okay, well done guys, off you go. Well done. Hopefully you've practiced some sentences now so that you've grown a little bit in confidence and practiced your skills of your expanded noun phrases and your prepositional phrases. Now keep that safe because that will help you and can go directly into the next paragraph that you're going to write. Okay. Because this is continuing on from our previous piece, I recommend the best thing to do when you start writing this paragraph is to read your introduction back again. Because what we want to do is make sure that our introductory paragraph links into our next paragraph using our cohesive devices. So I'm going to read back my previous paragraph, my introduction, before I then go through my thought process of writing my paragraph about my insect. So I've got the Amazon, which is located in South America, is the largest of all the world's rainforests, covering an area of 2.5 million square miles. This is almost the size of the whole of the United States of America. Amazonia, which this tropical paradise is often referred to as, has the mighty Amazon River running through it. Impressively, it stretches an incredible 4,000 miles, making it the second longest river in the world. Temperatures in the Amazon range from 86 to 95 degrees. This is very hot and humid, but the perfect climate for its wildlife. Because of the warm environment and significant rainfall, an average of 260 inches per year, plants and trees flourish in the rainforest, creating one of the Earth's major habitats. In fact, rainforests are home to half of the world's species of plants and animals, which are not found anywhere else in the world. So I've ended here by saying, in fact, rainforests are home to half of the world's species of plants and animals, which are not found anywhere else in the world. So when I went on to write my next paragraph, which I've started but not finished yet, so I'm going to share that with you, I've popped in a little subheading, which you may choose to use to help organise your writing. Because in the previous one, let me just flip back to that one again. There we are. I've said, in fact, rainforests are home to half of the world's species of plants and animals which are not found anywhere else in the world. I've decided to link in my first sentence with that, telling the reader straight away how many types of insects there are, and that's why I've chosen to start in that way. So I've got the Amazon rainforest is home to over 70,000 types of insects, and I got that fact directly from our virtual school trip that we went on in the second session of this learning journey. So the Amazon rainforest is home to 70,000 types of insects, some species of which are still unknown to biologists today. One such insect is the emerald skaterfly. So first of all, I've started with the general of there are 70,000 types of species. I've said that some species are still unknown to biologists because this is an unknown insect, isn't it? So you feel free to magpie that part. And then I've named the insect, so I've then gone down from the general to the specific of this is the insect I'm writing about. And then I've gone straight in to describe the anatomy of that insect. I've used this sentence already that I practiced earlier with my prepositional phrases and noun phrases, expanded noun phrases in as well. So I've got this fly has a distinctive protuberant green thorax in between its luminescent teal head and abdomen. And then I've added a relative clause at the end, which scientists have attributed to its plant-based diet. So because it eats lots of plants, it's got a green abdomen, basically. So I've described then already, I've described the thorax and it's in between the luminescent teal head and abdomen. Now, I then moved on to the legs as it felt like the natural place to go next because the legs grow out of the thorax. So I've then said the creature has 6 jointed legs. So we've got jointed elbows, they bend. This creature has jointed legs. So the creature has 6 jointed legs which carry it at an impressive pace. So I want to say it's fast. I try to think of a more formal way to do so. Both across land and water, which makes this creature well suited to its habitat. It has long hind legs covered in hairs that it uses rather like paddles to swim across the surface of shallow waters and slightly shorter mid and front legs, which it relies upon when travelling upon land. So I've used some relative clauses there to add further information to modify my nouns, my things, and to describe them. Okay, so next I've moved on to another prepositional phrase that I practiced earlier. Either side of its 2.5-inch body, emerald skaters have fore and hind wings which span more than 5 times its length, approximately 14 inches wide. I've then expanded upon that sentence so I've talked about the wings. I've then put in another sentence which then tells me some more information about the wings too. This adaptation allows the creature to be airbound, that means stay up in the air, for significant periods of time without having to land. Therefore, larger predators such as spider monkeys are less likely to catch them. So within those last 3 sentences, I've linked them together really carefully. I've described the wings by using a prepositional phrase as to where they are and described them as fore and hind wings using that technical informative language. I've then followed that up with why that's useful for the insect to have those wings. And then I've given another reason why it's useful again. So first of all, it can keep them airbound. So that's a really useful skill for an insect. But then furthermore, I've added another sentence which talks about predators and how they're less likely to catch them. So what could I go on to write about next? Well, I'll look back at my diagram that I've done, my technical diagram with my labels on it. I haven't written about the compound eyes yet, so I might need to think carefully about how I'm going to move on to that. Wings, I've just talked about the wings, so yeah, I can cross that one off. The head, well, I mentioned the head earlier, but haven't really got onto it, and the antennae. Now, actually, this works really, really well because I've just finished about writing about wings and therefore larger predators such as spider monkeys are less likely to catch them. In fact, what I may move on to then is the eyes, for example, because I could link that in with predators and how they use their eyes to avoid predators as well, and that would help that link, that cohesion in between those sentences. And then whilst I'm talking about the eyes, I could then talk about the surrounding head, so how those eyes are protected and where they fit in the head. Perhaps they are at the side of the head or at the front. I have to think about that. and then linking in with the head, you can move then to the antennae. So it feels like quite a natural way to describe. Right, year 6, what I'd like you to do now is pause the video in just a moment, and you're going to have a go at writing your next paragraph. Okay, so remember the tips that I shared with you. Go back and read your introduction that you've already written for your non-chronological report. Think about how you've ended that first paragraph and then how that's going to lead on to the next paragraph, thinking about your first sentence. If it's like mine, you've talked about the different types of species of plants and animals, and then you go straight in to talk about the insect species. And then moving that on to which specific insect you're writing about. Use your diagram to help you, your label diagram, and you could even go on to last lesson's video if you want to pause it on the glossary screen. You could have a little look at that as well. And I want you to have a go. Think about all the different parts of your insects, how you're going to describe it. Keep reading it back to ensure it makes sense. Make sure we've got in our expanded noun phrases, which I know you'll be able to get in there really naturally and easily. But also some of those prepositional phrases as well to describe where things are in relation to one another, the direction, or when things have happened in relation to one another. So pause the video, have a go at that, and then we'll do some review at the end. Fantastic, off you go. Well done, year 6. I'm sure you've worked really, really hard on that second paragraph for your non-chronological report. What I just want us to check now is that your paragraph, it needs to be really clear that you've finished that paragraph, okay? So that we know that this one is finished before moving on to our next paragraph. So here's an example of how, after I perhaps, or if I flip back a screen, after perhaps I've written about the compound eyes and the head and the antennae, I might think, how am I going to end this paragraph? Now, I had an idea about perhaps, now I've gone into detail about talking about the emerald skaterfly, perhaps I could mention one or two other species of these and how that may develop with evolution as things develop and reproduce. So I went with over the last decade. So I've got that as my start there. And it's also my, sorry, frozen screen, just 1 second. Right, I think I've sorted that problem. Sorry about that, year 6. So I've got over the last decade. I've got that frontal adverbial there to tell me when. So I've got over the last decade, scientists have discovered 12 variations of this breed of fly, each with a different coloured thorax. So I've added that extra information on the end with a dash. These include topaz, amethyst, and garnet shades. And then I've gone with my fronted subordinate clause with the conjunction due. Due to evolution, so that means because of evolution, in years to come, there may be even more variations of this fascinating species. So I've said, I've ended my paragraph. I've talked all about the emerald skaterfly. I've ended my paragraph then that scientists have discovered 12 variations of this fly, so 12 different types that have got different coloured thoraxes. I've said what they are, and then I've said what might happen in years to come due to evolution. So what I'd like you to do, just as we finish today, is just have a read through and make sure that your final sentence or sentences make it really clear that that paragraph's finished. You can do that when we sign off in just a moment. Right, well done for all your hard work today. I'm sure you've worked incredibly hard on this paragraph. Next session, going back to our learning journey, we're going to be having a read about another creature that lives in the Amazon rainforest. We're going to be thinking about the spider monkey. And you're going to be collecting some notes and information from there to enable you to write a paragraph about a spider monkey. And you're going to be answering some comprehension questions. So we're going to work on some reading skills as well. Okay, well done, everybody, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.